Hello! I'm NecroPolo and today I'm going to talk about guitar rigs. I mean stuff that I've been using on stage for a couple of years. I built a lot of iterations and versions of this guitar pedal board. I used it before a guitar amp, I used it before a power amp, but since 2019 I've been using this just as an amp sim, straight into the PA. I use onstage monitors, but later about that. I've been on tour with different bands during 2022, and I used the same thing for all the bands. And after the shows, I received a lot of questions about the guitar rig, and guys were quite surprised when they saw what it is really. So basically, it's a couple of simple things strapped to a doormat. I started to use this grid or frame around 2009, I guess. Before I used a Marshall GCM 900 SLX on stage for over a decade. I still have this tube amplifier, it's still my favorite tube amplifier, and I still love this amplifier. The reason why I had to find another onstage guitar rig was my spine. Around 2009 it just said no for heavy lifting. You know, an amplifier head is about 30 kilos. A big 4x12 guitar cab that fits metal is also somewhere around that weight, and all I can say is that arthritis and heavy lifting doesn't mix well. So somewhere around early 2009, my spine became a very painful experience. To avoid long-term and permanent damage to my spine, my doctor advised to stop lifting heavy things completely. So I was on a mission on finding a featherweight champion of guitar sound. For a long time, I tried a lot of stuff and I didn't like most of them. There was always something missing for me. Then a friend of mine from the United States recommended me to check AMT preamps. AMT is a guitar gear company from Siberia. I checked them and I've been using them since that day. So my guitar gear is always built around an AMT preamp pedal. This particular rig is special because it remained unchanged for years, and I tend to change things all the time. So despite the fact it reflects my very simple guitar gear idea, just, guitar, cable, amplifier, that's it. The way I used my Marshall rig back in time, but I used different power supplies, different input-output sections, and a couple of small utility things, always trying to find a better solution. But since early 2020, I didn't have to, modify it at all. So it's the very same rig that I started to use on the first day of its existence. So it's a very simple but very efficient thing. It has everything I need, but nothing that I don't. So the input section is a wireless unit that is also a very efficient onstage tuner. Two things in one by a Shure. It's a GLX14D. It's an amazing device, extremely reliable, and has an amazing sound quality. The next in line is a Digitech drop pedal. I can detune my guitar on the fly, just like from song to song if it's needed. It's amazing. The next in the chain is a classic pedal. It's an MXR chorus. One knob, simple, great sound, that's about it. The signal flows into my AMT M2 preamp. Through its cap sim out, it sounds like my Marshall amplifier in the studio. Properly recorded with a good microphone and some good processing. Playing through this feels a little bit like recording your guitar in a recording studio. When you hear your guitar sound through a monitor that's been processed by a very clever sound engineer. It puts the guitar exactly where it needs to be. Okay, this little red cute thing is a noise gate by Joyo. It's called Gate of Can. It's the simplest thing that you can imagine. It's just a tiny frame, one knob, very efficient noise gate. I love it. So, the last unit in the chain is an Art PDB passive DI box. Think about a translator between the unbalanced cables of the guitar gear and the balanced XLR cables of the PA system or a recording device. The whole thing is powered up by a Palmer power supply. It provides 5 9-volt outputs. It's called PWT5 Mark II. It feels like an industry-grade device, and it provides clean and stable power. Before suggesting any wrong idea about this video, this is not a sponsored one. Okay, so this is my honest opinion. Anyway, so this guitar rig I use with bands that have two guitarists, and I tend to leave the chorus pedal on all the time. It's a Judas Priest onstage guitar trick that was revealed by the great Richie Faulkner. I was always super impressed by their live sound, because Judas Priest, despite the fact that it sounds massive on stage, it remains articulate all the time. You can easily hear which guitar is what, and I think the key reason behind that is that one of the guitars has the chorus pedal on all the time. I think it's not lame to borrow some tech ideas from one of your favorite bands. Okay, so this is the rig that I use when I have to work with another guitarist in a band. You know, fight for our own place in the mix. But what about other projects where I'm the only guitarist? I'm sure that you are familiar with one, at least, because you are here in NecroPolo channel, and NecroPolo is the name of this project, releasing albums and lately playing live shows. So what about that? For a long time I kept on modifying this simple rig between something that sounds wide, you know, just like if two guitarists played on stage. You know, from the start, when I played as just a single guitarist in a band, I always try to achieve something wide, something massive, something three-dimensional sound. First, I used two guitar amps with some sort of splitter pedal. It was better than a single amp, but wasn't good enough. Then I started to experiment with chorus pedals, flangers, you know, either in stereo or just one side, but it wasn't 100% what I wanted. That is, one guitar panned hard left and the other panned hard right. Exactly the same thing that you can hear when you listen to a metal album. So I built another rig. I use it as an extension of the previous pedal board. From that rig I just used the wireless and the Digitech drop pedal. Sometimes I engage the chorus just for fun. So what is this super wide guitar gear is about? Well, the building blocks are the same: AMT amp sim and a noise gate. I use different AMT preamps from the previous rig that tries to emulate my Marshall that's rather a rock amplifier. You know, rather mid-gain than high-gain, that allows me to use a lot of dynamics when playing. But these two beasts are different. E2 stands for Angle Powerball, and P2 stands for PV5150. So it is built for killing. I used the same JO noise gates, because they were so fine for me. Considering the power supply section, it's completely identical to the previous pedal board. It's a Palmer PWT5. About the output section, it's almost identical too, because it's the dual version of the previous Art passive DI box. So what makes the difference and creates pretty wide left and right guitars is this TC Mimic pedal. It is the front end of this board, emulating two guitarists playing the same riff. Well, except for that you are the only guitarist. Honestly, I have no idea how it works. It just makes a difference between these two outputs, you know, left and right. I'm just guessing, but I think there's a tiny computer involved and some clever algorithm. It is not perfect, but still the best solution for creating this doubling effect. Okay, that's all about it really. So, sample time. Okay, that's been my guitar rig that serves me and my bands pretty well on the roads. Well, and it's the same rig that I use to record playthrough videos most of the time. You know, simplicity has a power. Just turn on, plug in, and it sounds just right out of the box. The TC Mimic works pretty fine in this rig. However, I wouldn't use it for actual album recording. There are a couple of reasons for that. Thing 1, the TC Mimic is nice, but it's not perfect. Thing 2, I love recording multi-track guitars. Thing 3, I always record a DI or clean guitar because of later reamping possibility. This rig doesn't really allow that. However, when it comes to recording, I have used AMT amp sims a lot during the years. I just wire them in parallel. That provides either a clean guitar and a drive guitar through the AMT preamp. I think I have made a video about it. I will provide a link in the description below. What else? Yep, onstage monitoring. Just a couple of strange ideas. Okay. So this little rig is absolutely capable of providing an excellent in-ear monitoring material. So you can have a silent stage. Sound engineers will bless your name. Well, not mine. From the start I sing when I play guitar, and from the start I've been using 3M foam earplugs. Besides hearing protection, it also provides some pretty nice point of reference when it comes to singing, even in a very loud stage environment. And I have an ample of years spent like that. Screaming amplifiers and my point of reference come through my foam earplugs, not the monitors. 95% of the time they were just absolutely utter shit. So I spent around 20 years in this environment. And when I tried to go in the in-ear monitoring way, singing just didn't work anymore. I became sort of destabilized. So instead I ditched the idea of me using some sort of in-ear monitoring system, and I use a simple dedicated powered wedge monitor that gets my guitar only. It's an Alto TS310. It's a roadworthy companion. All I can say about it is when we supported the Galloping Coroners band back in somewhere 2019. My little alto monitor was used by the singer Attila Grandpierre, and this little alto monitor can take a beating. The Alto TS and the Headrush monitoring systems are very close siblings. Tiny bit different because the Headrush is voiced a little bit more like a guitar monitor and the Alto is voiced more like portable PA. And that's the reason why I have the Alto, because I also use it as a portable PA system for an acoustic project. Well, maybe I'll make a video about that gear too, because that's a very nice and compact rig for 4 people that fits in a simple car. I mean the wall band and the PA as well. But that's another tale for another day. I've been NecroPolo. See you somewhere in time.